Hello and welcome to Helicopters Train Videos. In this video we're looking at dangerous student errors during simulated power failures. This is a clip from the Helicopter Training Podcast Dangerous Student Errors series. You can find the full episodes linked in the description or in our YouTube podcast tab.
Well, let's move on and talk about simulated power failures. What is CFIs and students need to know about those?
Yeah, so simulated power failures, like I said, as our flight school, we do that as stage 3 training because it is ramping up the risk a little bit from even auto rotation entries. We need to be clear with the student how this is done. We need to remind the student if they've not done it for a while, or if you're flying with a new student, everyone needs to be on board about how this is going to happen. The way we do it is the instructor will simultaneously roll down slowly while saying engine failure, engine failure, engine failure. And they'll keep rolling down and they'll keep saying engine failure until one of two things are going to happen. Either the student wakes up and enters the auto rotation as they should, or the horn comes on. Once the horn comes on, if the student hasn't reacted, that becomes the instructor's aircraft, and then we brief that. If you haven't reacted by the time the horn comes on, I will, as the instructor, take the aircraft to preserve the rotor RPM. Because the difference between an auto entry and the simulated engine failure is we are decaying the RPM before, well, we're rolling the throttle down before we lower the pitch in the rotor system. So the RPM is coming down. And when the horn comes on, even at that moment, when the instructor says my controls and lowers the collective quite aggressively, there is a good chance that the RPMs are going to come very close to the low end of the allowable range of about 90%. So we need to make sure there's no delay at that point. So that's part of it, is briefing. The other thing is making sure that the instructor only does this when we are outside of the yellow manifold range in the R22, which is starting around 20 inches. The Robinson Safety Nurse 27 talks about simulated engine failures that it should be less than 21 inches. We just use the yellow range as a really quick visual. And the reason is, in that range, we have a relatively high collective position, which means a relatively high pitch angle on the blades, which basically means a quick decay of RPM. So we want to make sure we get that pitch level down a little bit. As an instructor, there's plenty of ways you could do that. Let's take a descent and look over here, or whatever it might be, or let's level out here. We just need to get rid of that high decay pitch angle. And the other piece is to make sure that you have a safety road within glide distance. When we do auto rotation training, we're often at the airport. If we're not and we're at altitude, we follow the same protocol. Make sure that you have a smooth, open area to make a fall down landing if the engine quits. Now, engine quitting is pretty rare now. I mean, that's certainly not the main cause of aircraft coming out of the sky, but a lot of this is to do with pilot errors and things like that. But it still happens. I personally experienced one. I was on the ramp looking at the helicopter was flying by, and I saw that there was something coming out of the bottom of the helicopter, and it looked like a plastic bag or something had caught on the bottom of the helicopter. It was kind of that sort of shape. That's kind of weird. So I go to grab a radio from line service to let them know. And before I got there, they entered an auto rotation. And what actually happened is at the bottom of the R22, there's an air box that holds the air filter. And the bolts that held the air filter in place had over time come loose. And then the last one had finally come off. And the bottom of the air filter box had fallen down and the air filter had fallen out. And it was fine until the end of the auto rotation. Two things happened there. They rolled to idle, so the mixture changed. And on top of that, the airflow went directly straight up into the carburetor, and the mixture was incorrect, and it caused an engine failure. So we always need to be thinking this could happen, whether it's a mechanical problem or not. It can happen. To finish this story, the student was on a private pilot check ride. It was his last maneuver on his check ride. He has an engine failure in an auto rotation, which is the best place to have an engine failure. I'll give him that. The DPE high hour guy, a lot of experience, without hesitation, cracked the throttle slightly, reached over and started the engine again, and held, brought the throttle up and got the engine back in the game. So they come down, they land, and then he made him go back out and finish the auto rotation. He just had an engine failure on his check ride. I would have given him the handshake right there. He had a real engine failure on his check ride. But anyway,
Wow.
So anyway, it can happen. So we need to make sure, just treat every auto rotation as it could happen. And if it happens, are you in a comfortable place to make this a successful full down auto rotation? And the last piece really about how we choose where we do this is we will often do this away from the airport, the airport is a relatively safe area. We know that there's not going to be towers on the approach end and things like that. Or if there is, they're going to be lit and NOTAMed. But the off airport, sorry, the simulated engine failures on a cross country and things like that, just assume that there's something you're going to hit below 500 feet and do a power recovery before you get too low, so we don't end up hitting wires. Unfortunately, there was an accident looking at the other day where they do a simulated engine failure on the power recovery. They hit wires on the climb out. So be careful of that. Again, Robinson have Safe Nurse 27. We talked a little bit about this, and it's about surprise throttle chops, and it's talking a little bit about simulated power failures. And it goes back to be prepared to basically enter the maneuver yourself. Be prepared that the student will make some adverse reaction. This is a tense moment for a student. They may pull up, they may throttle chop you. There's a lot of things that the student could do on a simulated engine failure. Assume that you will enter the auto yourself until the student proves otherwise, and be right there. Be ready for roll-ups, roll-downs, incorrect up-down. This is a stressful maneuver as far as it goes. So I think that also goes back to how you teach it. Make sure you show it in a nice, calm way. If the student messes up, take the controls. Don't get angry. Just say, all right, well, next time we need to change things up a little bit. Let's keep it calm. Let's do a power recovery. Don't make this the thing the student starts getting tense about. And that's on the instructor about how they deal with that.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point, which is that instructors really need to maintain their calm. And yeah, every once in a while I hear a story about an instructor who hasn't. But that's one of the things that people have told me in the fixed wing world is, wow, Max, you have incredible patience. And, I think that's just a key part of being a flight instructor.
Yeah, Richard talked about it when he was on about, I think he called it Blogs was the name of the student, Blogs trying to kill Sir. It is going to happen. They're not trying to do it on purpose. We just got to remember it is part of their job description of being a student. They're going to make some mistakes. And hopefully this is what some of this training will help, and some of this stuff we've talked about will help you be prepared for that.
Yep. Well, we got a couple more areas we're going to talk about.
This clip was just a small taste of the 3-part Dangerous Student Areas series on the Helicopter Training podcast. In that series, we break down key instructor techniques like guarding and blocking controls, ghosting maneuvers, when to take the controls, and how to respond when a student freezes up. We then apply those concepts across real training scenarios, including slopes, hover work, running landings, quick stops, vortex ring state, auto rotations, simulated engine failures, off-airport operations, and more. We also review real maneuver-specific accidents and what we can learn from them as instructors and as students. You can find the full episodes right here on this YouTube channel under the podcast tab, or search for Helicopter Training Podcast on your favorite podcast player. And if you're interested in learning to fly helicopters, you can start learning right now on Helicopter Training Video's YouTube channel, with video playlists covering things like ground school subjects, flight maneuvers, as well as following along with a student on every training flight from day one all the way through to check ride. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to get all the latest videos and help support this channel. And finally, for more information, including articles, quizzes, and resources, and how to support this volunteer project, please check out our website, helicoptertrainingvideos.com. Thanks for watching. Fly safe.